very good evening. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. Thank you all for joining me. I wonder how the mood is with all you West Ham fans on today, Monday. I guess there's going to be an awful lot of frustration. I'm sure an awful lot of you will be frustrated with the result. Some of you are going to be frustrated with the performance that West Ham put in against Aston Villa at the weekend, and I'm sure some of you are going to be really frustrated with the VAR and the refereeing decisions, or maybe most of you are frustrated with a mixture of all. So we're going to go through all of those throughout this show tonight, and we're going to talk about a little bit about all the latest roundup news, as well as have a brief look at Bayer Leverkusen. Unbeatable, or is it about time that a team started taking the game to them? Imagine low block, West Ham United against Leverkusen. We'll talk all about that in a moment. Let's go into the chat and bid everyone hello. Good evening to you, usual 1219. You were probably right, because I had a problem with my notes. They didn't transfer across from one laptop to the other. Of course it's going to happen. You know, nothing to do with me. It's technology. I've got nothing to do with it. Toha, good evening to you. Do you queue for a Boxing Day sale from the previous New Year's Day? 12, 9, 16. Good evening, Toha. I've no idea how to answer that question. Shaky, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Leslie, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Well, no, not quite so late. I think Usual got it right. Graham, I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening, Montana. How are you? Bad ref, yes, but the manager needs to make positive subs, not negatives. We're going to talk about that later on. Montana again. I'm still waiting to see where we finish in the table. For me now, I'd like to take Conference League for next season. The only way Moyes stays is if we get Europa League. I don't know anymore whether Moyes is going to stay or not. And that is the honest truth. You know, I think there are some people that are saying that, you know, I've spoken about this before. I'm going to briefly go on to it. The news that there's a contract offer available, there is. Whether it's the contract offer that David Moyes wants or not is clearly another matter. Would it be only Europa League that will keep him in at West Ham? I think Europa Conference will get him, will maintain a new contract for him. Martin, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Yesterday felt like 2 points dropped. Some tough games coming up after the international break. There are indeed. Good evening, Montana again. I agree, Martin, but I felt we should draw after the second Antonio goal got chalked off. VAR is a disgrace. VAR is a disgrace. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments about VAR later on. Clive, I hope you're well. Feeling rough, so I'll be watching in bed. Hit the like button, please. I hope you're well, mate. I hope you haven't got too bad allergy. John, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Where is Fitflop? He did a great post-match appraisal, has changed his mind since. Still stand by. No, I admit it. I came out of that game and I had, if you watched my review, it was very different to some of the comments I've been putting out since, because I've looked at it again. I've thought about it again. I've you know, and I'm going to talk about it later. My review was that I thought David Moyes had made wrong decisions when it came to the substitutions, etc. And I thought that gave Aston Villa too much ground. It kind of did, but I also get why he made the changes that he made. But I will talk about that later on. Good evening, Howard. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, mate. Who else have we got in here? Good evening, Paul. How are you, mates? Look, let's be honest. As much as we think Moyes did wrong, let's be really honest. The referee was awful yet again. This is meant to be the best league in the world. However, our officiating is not the best. I was asking my mates after the game, how is it that in the World Cup 2 years ago, we had VAR in that, and I can't remember VAR decision being either too long or too controversial. They seem to get it right almost just about every single time, and they seem to do it really snappily, really quickly. Why is it in the Premier League we can't get it right? And when we do, I mean, 5 minutes, 37 seconds to make a decision. If that's not inconclusive, then I don't know what is. Good evening to you, Bill. How are you? Who would have thought? I know. Good evening to you, Daniela. How are you? I hope you're well. Good evening, Hammerette. I hope you're well. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Obsidian, how are you, mate? Stellin, Moyes out. Maybe not after tonight's show. You might be saying Stell out as well. James, how are you, mate? I get why Soucek goal was disallowed, but it was a time taken that pissed everybody off, not just you, mate. Good evening to you, Aaron. I hope you're well. And here's me thinking, you should know better than that, shouldn't you? Juha, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. And good evening to you, NWO. How are you? Black Country, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Big Ben on time again. Bill, I believe there should be a time limit. If they can't confirm for definite, it's a no goal. They should allow it. Totally agree. 5 minutes, 37 seconds to try and then work out that it was a handball. I mean, look, if Soucek really did push it in with his hand, I can't tell, to be honest with you. I don't know. I've looked at the video over and over again, and I can't tell for any of them, to be quite honest with you. Dan, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. So I agree with you, Bill. If they can't make their minds up after, say, 2 minutes, they just got to go with what the original ref decision was. The ref gave it. He was right there, and he gave it. Do we need VAR, James, to help when Stella's going to start? Good evening, Robbie. How are you, mates? Most of us are frustrated waiting nearly 6 minutes. Fair play. You got me there. Freiburg. Usual. Freiburg banged 2 in against Leverkusen, although they banged in 3. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about Leverkusen later on. Michael, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Please, someone remind me why the FA doesn't allow additional camera views in the situation like Soucek's. Is it possible that the ball could have bounced off part of Bowen's body? Very good point. I maintain that the best cameras that we've got at football matches are the television cameras, the Sky cameras, etc. So why is it that we're using completely different VAR? By the looks of it, we're using different VAR cameras to that of the television companies. Why don't they just do an effing deal? And if they want to keep off, I'd like to scrap VAR now. But if they're going to keep VAR, then why don't they do a deal with the television companies and because they can get we can see the replays at the stadium. We see a replay of a piece of action of a goal within about 30 seconds, less than that sometimes. So why is it that VAR can't just use the camera angles that the TV companies use? I bet you then make decisions far, far quicker and more accurately as well. Sharky, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Great win last Thursday. Shame the lads didn't get the win yesterday. Good evening to you, mate. Good evening, Mandy. How are you? I hope you're well. Everyone, you lazy likers. It's a polite way of saying you something buckets. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, do hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification to let me know that you enjoy the show. Hammer it. Don't see the Johnson sub as a poor one, to be fair. They were all over us at that stage. Nowhere near looking like they were going to start scoring. Defensive play for a flag in Antonio was right, in my opinion. That's what I said afterwards. And I've been told I'm a flip-flop by John. On TalkSport, Bianca Westwood says she's Moyes in, and Phil Thompson reckons Moyes should walk if he isn't appreciated. What about you and your job? Not just you, John, but anybody. If you're not appreciated in your job, if you feel you're undermined in some way, not being paid enough, not getting enough praise, etc., what do? Do you sit there and go, oh, well, I'll grin and bear it? No, you go and look for another job, don't you? You decide, well, if you're not going to respect me, if you're not going to like what I do, I'll go elsewhere. Do I think David Moyes will get another job in the Premier League? Yeah, I do. Do I think it will be a club as big as West Ham United? No, I don't. I think this is his last big job in the Premier League. But I'm sure there are 1 or 2 clubs that will be looking over their shoulder and going, I wouldn't mind him for a season or 2. Daniela, the Sun still peddling the Maguire coming. Load of bollocks. Forget about it. It's not the summer transfer window, so I'm not worrying about it. You're absolutely right, though. They're peddling rubbish just to wind us up. Good evening, Foxes. I hope you're well. Hammer it. Did you see Lingard has now been slated by his new manager for not moving around as much as players that had been on for 90 minutes? Well, there's a surprise. Gary, how are you, mate? Coffee or rum? Neither. Fizzy water, mate. No coffee. Well, coffee in the morning, no rum on Mondays. I won't be able to get up for work tomorrow. I hope you're well, Gary. Looking forward to seeing you and the lads at the weekend. Aaron, didn't the league the World Cup VAR wouldn't? Didn't the league say that Start again. Didn't they say that VAR wouldn't suit our league as the football's too quick? You know what? I don't know. That's a really good question, Aaron. I don't know that. So what was the World Cup? Well, um, you know what? It's not the technology, is it? It's the way it's being used, which is the unfortunate thing. I just think the people that were behind the VAR cameras at the World Cup just had more nous about them, more worldly, better at managing VAR than our motley lot. John, it's not the Premier League. It's VAR looking for a reason to not to give us anything. Corrupt. I'm not surprised that people think that, because we've had so many bad decisions go against us. When we've seen players handball, like Berger a few weeks ago when he headed it onto his hand, and that's not handball, but it hit Antonio off the shoulder. But that is handball. It's like, make your bloody minds up what it is. Billy Bob, good evening to you. It's Moyes' fault, regardless of the ref and VAR. Taking off a striker and bringing on a right back, he's a clown. Well, I'm going to explain that later on. Montana. Still, the Gillette guy, he is a foreigner. Yeah, he's Australian, isn't he? Yeah, he's shite like the ones we already have in here. It's PGMOL that makes and emboldens their terrible officials. I agree. They are terrible. They are really, really bad at their jobs. If any of us were really bad at our jobs, we'd be told to sling our hooks sooner or later. But it seems that, all they get is a bit of a slap wrist. They're told, oh, you're not going to officiate the next game, but you'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Well, what sort of punishment is that? The problem is there probably aren't enough referees out there in order to punish them and let them ref where there isn't any VAR. I wonder what it'd be like. Maybe they need a season or so down in the bottom leagues where there's no VAR and see how they fare then. Brian, I hope I'm very good, mate. I hope you are too. If we had played the same all year as we did the first half versus Villa, we'd be 6th, maybe even 5th. Could you agree? Possibly, yes. I'm not going to disagree. I think we look fantastic when we're on the front foot. I don't deny that, Brian. I think we look fantastic. Yeah. Would we have won more games? It's hard to tell. But I guess you could look at the Villa game. The first half we were on it. The second half we weren't. And, we were winning in the first half, but we lost the goal in the second. Sharky, Leverkusen are a good side. It's going to be a tough ask. It sure will be. Good evening, Pete. I hope you're well. John again. Still, you can't tell because no one can tell. So we were screwed by VAR, assuming without evidence, the post in the way, and you can't tell from the other side. I agree. And this is why, if you haven't got conclusive evidence, that second goal should have gone in. People are telling me now that Souček pushed his arm on it, but we can't see it, can we? So I don't know what the referee was looking at when he was asked to go and look at the screen. Funky T, good evening to you. What happened to the it's not clear and obvious rule? Exactly that. If it's not clear and obvious, you've got to give it as a goal. If you can't see it, I think the ref bottled it. I think VAR bottled it, which is why does it take 5 minutes to say that was a handball? If it was a handball, it would be obvious. It would clear. They bottled it and they went, oh, you know what, ref? We're not too sure anymore. Why don't you go and have a look? And the ref is like, well, I gave it. Now you're telling me you're not sure. What am I going to do? They put it on the ref and the ref ended up bottling it. Leslie, good evening. They have claimed that they didn't have the behind the goal camera and that's what caused delay. Well, why don't they have the fucking behind the goal camera? Why is it not there? If it's not there, that means VAR is not fit for purpose, doesn't it, really? If they haven't got the apps, if they haven't got the necessary equipment, don't fucking use it. Sling VAR out. Get rid of it. It's ruined the game anyway. So how much worse can it be? I'd rather go back to the referee, just blame the referee for all the mistakes rather than now we've got technology, which is meant to be making it easier and better. And it's as bad, if not even worse. Juha, watching West Ham game is so difficult. We get an amazing game and then we're back to almost hellish, hopeless pain. Sometimes it would be better only to look at the scores. Ray Palmer, good evening to you, mate. If we had Unai Emery as manager, we would definitely won that game. He is proactive and Moyes is reactive. With no game management. That's a decent point. I get you. But, Emery didn't beat us, did it? Well, mind you, they smashed us 4-1 earlier on in the season. Bedfordshire, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Paul, it is from the Sun. It's not true. Comic, about more transfers. Why do they bother? Have they got nothing else to talk about? Transfers when the windows are shut. Foxes, I didn't fall asleep and I was on the edge of my seat enjoying the match regardless of VAR until Moyes made that sub. Mandy, if I was getting $5 million a year, I would grin and bear it. Well, good point, Mandy. If you're being paid $5 million a year, you go, I don't give a fuck what you think. Look at that money. Very true. Bill, originally I thought the VAR time taken would marry the US channel advert break. Not now. It's all about top six and money. Heard Nottingham Forest. Yeah, I heard that earlier today. Apparently Nottingham Forest have been docked points. What about Man City? How's that going? How many points are they going to be docked before the end of the season? Or any other team that's broken the rules? Chelsea, etc. I bet they don't get docked anything. It's outrageous, to be quite honest with you. They're picking on the teams that they think is low-hanging fruit, like, they can do it quite easily. They won't dare go and touch Chelsea and Man City because of all the lawyers that they've got, all the firepower that they've got in order to hit them back. And they don't want that, do they, the Premier League? They want to make examples of the lesser teams. What a shame. What a shame, Who else have we got here? Hammerit. A clear and obvious error doesn't take 5.5 minutes to decide. Just bullshit, ruining the beautiful. It's ruined it. Absolutely ruined it. Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I don't want to get Maguire at the irons or Moyes either. Don't worry about, silly stories that come out when newspapers have got nothing better to talk about. Victor, the lack of options on the bench cost us the win on Sunday, but who's the small squad down to? No, don't disagree with that, Victor. Totally agree. When we started to look at what players they were bringing on, Zaniolo, who came on and scored the equaliser. When we're looking at the players that they were bringing on compared to the players that we had on, you could start to see, how small we had in the squad. I know a lot of people have been talking about Danny Ings. I'm going to get to that point in a moment. Bill, funny the referee didn't take that long to decide. Isn't that a good point? They took 5 minutes and then they went to the ref. You go and have a look. And straight away the ref went, yeah, handball. Bit strange, isn't it? Have we all become the worst of conspiracy theorists? Or do we think something absolutely stinks around here? Cockney Buccaneer. VAR should never look at any incident in slow motion, as it's not the real world. There's things such as proximity and speed that are important factors which get ignored in slow-mo. Good point. Really good point. And that Funky T. The VAR is quicker in the Champions League. Seems the Premier League VAR is incompetent. There was an incident in Chelsea FA Cup game that took so long to decide. This is the problem. I think it's those who are officiate. They can't make up their minds. I don't know why, how. Maybe they train differently. Who knows? But it seems to me that VAR, when it's managed elsewhere, and I picked the World Cup as a prime example because that's the one that I don't really watch a lot of Champions League. West Ham aren't in it, but the odd game. But the World Cup for me was the quite prominent thing in my mind, where I just remember every time there was a VAR decision, it was quick, it was snappy, and 9 times out of 10, it was the right decision. We can't even know. VAR is telling us that something's gone wrong. We can't even trust it because the people who are looking at it are, it's the same people that are on the pitch the following week refereeing games. So they're all of the same sort of mindset. They can't seem to make their mind up. Leslie, refs are poor. So why should VAR be different? Need something different to improve. Absolutely. Adam. All right, mate. Good evening to you. VAR is corrupt and they are cowards who run it at the top 6. This is why people feel this way. And I don't blame you. I really want to think that it's not designed to just keep the so-called greedy 6, higher than everybody else. But you can't help feeling, we would have gone a point within a point of Man United if we'd won the game yesterday, within a point. And, we lost that opportunity. Hamrat, 4 goals were scored yesterday and only 1 stood. Yeah, 4. I completely forgot about the Kudus thing earlier on, and I had to ask about that. So I'm going to mention that later as well. Leverkusen are like Rangers, an okay team in a shit league. Cockney, you know what? I think they're good, but I think they're beatable. And if they're going to be unbeaten until we get to play them, why not us? Mikey, can't keep blaming VAR for what not winning games. Moyes got it right in the first half, but second half he went back to tight with tactics. Leopard never changed its spot. I've got a theory. You're going to have to bear with me, and when I get through the comments, I'm going to talk about that. John, read a piece that VAR balances out. It absolutely doesn't. That means we're going to win the Europa League and the Premier League if that's the case. Yeah, it doesn't. It's meant to, but it doesn't. Clive, we had a decision in our favour with the Bowen pass back from the touchline. That went out because he covered the camera angle. It went in our favour. I don't remember that bit. Sharky, Leverkusen look average against Freiburg. Yeah, I watched the brief video about on it earlier on, so I'm going to talk about the game. Sharky, all these cameras at the stadium, they can't get the right angle. It needs to be binned or use different effing cameras. Black country. So sad state of affairs. Computers system running the game. This is it. Well, it's not. It's people who are watching the screens who are running the game and ruining the game. VAR was fine in the World Cup in the Champions League, so why not in the Premier League? John, did you hear Trip Smith and Decker's had a date at a fancy restaurant? People are freaking out. I don't. Yeah, I know, and I've tried to get a story, and there is no story. I do not know what that's about. I've got no clue at all. I've asked. I've seen the photos, etc., and I've asked, and I've been told, yeah, apparently they're golfing buddies. I don't know about that, but why would they have met? Trip Smith, one of the smaller shareholders of West Ham United, meeting Declan Rice for dinner last week. I don't get it. I don't know what the connection is. I wish I knew, but I don't get what the connection is. Black Country, Man City haven't been charged because have not admitted charges. Fuck me. They haven't admitted charge. Charge them and see what happens then. Bill, PGMOL supply referees to European and Saudi leagues so they get banned from Premier League but still earn refereeing elsewhere. Doesn't hit their pockets. Send them all out to the Saudi leagues and keep them there. What else have we got? Hammerette, what do you make of the talk of Sully, Kretinsky and gold shares? You're going to have to wait for that because I'm going to talk about that in a separate show. So sorry, but yeah, you're going to have to wait about that. John, on another one from Sean on Twitter. You've done that one already. You're going to have to wait, I'm afraid. Dexter, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Absolutely robbed by the dreadful officiating yesterday. VAR should never take that long to make a decision. It's ridiculous. Absolutely agree. Russell, VAR is 50-50. 1 week it will go for you, the next it won't. Do you think we should have a time limit? Absolutely, there should be a time limit. I totally agree with that. And the thing about it being 50-50, apparently the last 5 VAR decisions have all gone against us. So is it 50-50? Not when it comes to West Ham, it doesn't feel like. Jerry, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Graham, I'm absolutely certain that we will beat Leverkusen. Don't say that because I'm not certain, but I'm not doom and gloom about the game. Finn, good evening to you. Everyone talking about VAR and not the Antonio substitution when Moyes declared 65 minutes at 1-0. I will talk about that, Finn. Ray, if they can deduct points from clubs for incompetence, why not deduct pay from refs? You know what I'd rather do? Instead of them coming out and going, we made a mistake, do something else. It's no good to the clubs that get affected by bad VAR decisions to have an apology afterwards. That doesn't get you points. Maybe clubs should get, I don't know, a point added. So say they lose a game because of a VAR decision, you either go, right, well, we're going to give point to each club, take away the win, or do something else. Give a compensatory point to the club that's been affected by a definite VAR mistake. How about that? That'll soon stop the fucking refs making mistakes. Sorry, I shouldn't swear, should I? Leslie, VAR is accepted here in France, and VAR personnel are never named, so no pressure, and they test it and only use the best at VAR. I wish they had the best here. Bill, currently Sully is... You're all talking about that. Yeah. Look, I'll give you a quick rundown. Very, very brief. It looks like potentially more investment is wanted within the club. Apparently, a certain member of the board, not going to name who it is, went out of the country to look at investments. Nothing to do with Vanessa Gold. Vanessa Gold is selling at the moment 10% of the gold shares separately at the moment. There's a possibility that Vanessa Gold could be looking at selling more than 10%. There's also a possibility that Kretinsky can sell a few shares of his total, as well as Sully potentially selling some shares too. Now, what might happen is there might be another investor coming in where that investor may have 25% stake in West Ham United, which could end up being the same as 25% for Kretinsky, and maybe 25% stake from Sullivan, which means there'll be an equal. No longer will there be. At the moment, when decisions are made, they've got to be voted on. But mostly Sullivan will vote, and then it only takes the Gold family or Tripp Smith, etc., to vote with him, and a decision will be made. Whereas if you've got 25% stake, then you've got to have other people on your side. Who knows how voting may go in the future if another investor comes in and has a 25% controlling stake in the club. It's a bit like, what's his name, Ratcliffe, who's taken 25% of Man United. He's only got 25%, but he can make decisions, or he can be party to making decisions about how the club is run, etc. There you go. You've just ruined my special, and that's all I'm saying about it. Cockney, VAR went from 3 officials to 5, and wonder why it takes longer. Jesus Christ, they could have 10 in there and still wouldn't get the bloody decision right. Gary, I think if Moyes played on the front foot, attacking football at 1-0, we could have won the game. I'm not so sure, to be quite honest with you, but I'm going to come to it in a moment. Lord Patrick, good evening to you. I dropped 2 disco biscuits and now I love all of you. Black Country. Poor PR style, keeping people hanging on about takeover. There you go. I gave it to you. Now you're all not going to watch the video that I'm the special bit. I'll go into a lot more detail from the special. There you are. You've got to come and watch it anyway. Right. If they can deduct points from clubs for incompetence, why not deduct money from refs and VAR officials for the same thing? That would make them correct decisions. I'd rather the clubs got a point added. I am a bit upset, to be honest with you, Steve, because it's like, I want to go and watch a game of football. I don't want to spend 5-6 minutes standing there like, going, well, come on then. It's become ridiculous and it's ruining the game. All right, many will argue, well, it was at the end of the game. It doesn't really matter. Imagine if that was like halfway through the game and we had to wait. The players, it affects the players, the way they play. They stop, start. And someone else said before, it might have been John McCarthy, said maybe this is all about Americanizing football, where you got VAR, which is going to take 3 or 4 minutes. There's your fucking 3 or 4 minutes of adverts. Oh, money-making load of bollocks, isn't it, really? Cockney, the stupid modern handball rules allow attacking players to deliberately kick a ball at a player's arm to get a penalty. Nearly happened to Emerson. Well, that clearly wasn't. And I know people are going to talk about, well, it goes both ways. What about the penalty that they should have had? Well, in a pen, because he didn't move his hands. He didn't move his hands out or anything like that. His hands were already down, and the player literally aimed the ball at his arms. That's outrageous. Let's scroll down a bit more. Funky T. VAR should be swapped for TMO, which is transparent and everyone knows what's happening. Why have the FA approached the rugby league why have they not approached the rugby league on how they manage their decision? Good shout. It doesn't seem to be that controversial, does it, in other sports? Bill, the club is valued in multiple millions. To invest, you have to invest serious money. If my money, I would want to know what's happening with that. Any investor will want to. There you go. I gave you the answer just a moment ago. You forced me into it. Did Wiggy say it's outrageous? He didn't. He wasn't even there. He was on double bubble. He was working. Bastard. Black Country. Stell won't be recruited for James Bond role. Can't keep a secret. Very good. That's it, people. If you're new to the channel, smash that like button. Hit the subscribe notification button as well, and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on it. Absolutely helps the channel, and it doesn't cost you a penny. It doesn't cost you anything to become a subscriber, apart from getting annoyed when the bell notification tells you when the next show is on. Usual. Who remembers the midget on the trampoline giving the weather report? What? Where's that come from? Leslie, what is unacceptable? People in ground are only ones to know what is going on. What is unacceptable? People in the ground are the only ones to know what is going on. John, here we go. Any solicitors in? He's slandering me again. I said nothing about USA and VA. I don't know what you said. You know, I'm going through these comments so quickly. I don't know what I've said. So why don't we start with the show? Because, you know, after saying hello to you all, we've actually got a show to do. So what do? Let's do a bit of a roundup, shall we? First of all, the latest, so there's going to be more changes in April, but a couple of games have changed already because of us being in the next round of the Europa League. So obviously, the game against Fulham has now moved to Sunday, the 14th of April, with a kickoff at 2 p.m. And of course, the game against Crystal Palace away is now moved to Sunday, the 21st of April. Time to be decided. Now, apparently, the Fulham game is not even going to be televised. Televise it, for God's sake. What's wrong with you people? Look, those two games have been moved. And apparently when the TV companies decide to fart arse around with our fixtures, more changes are going to be made in due course. What else have we got? Let's talk very briefly about the women's team. They lost again. They played Liverpool away, 3-1 defeats at the weekend to Liverpool in the Barclays Women's Super League. Home side took the lead before half-time when former West Ham United forward Leanne Kiernan slotted in to an empty net. Where was the goalie? Liverpool then went 2 up just after half-time, and the third was soon added. Riko Ueki, our Japanese international, scored what would go down as a consolation. Now, the next game for the West Ham women's team is a pretty easy one. It's against league leaders Chelsea at home. Good luck with that one. Under 21s. The under 21s were back to form again after losing 3-0 to Fulham last week. At the weekend, they were back in form where they went temporarily at the top of Premier League 2 following a 4-1 superb win over Brighton and Hove Albion on Friday night. It was a stellar performance. And David Moyes started the goal proceedings, putting West Ham up 1-0 after 34 minutes. And then fresh from making his senior debut, George Earthy then doubled the West Ham lead shortly in the second half before Mbama tapped in the third soon after a pass set up from Regan Clayton. And then Brighton pulled one back, though only any hope of an unlikely comeback didn't materialise. And then Junior Robinson turned in West Ham's fourth goal after a penalty was saved. So well done to West Ham, but Dibin got sent off at right at the death. Apparently he punched another player. He must be very frustrated, poor lad. The under-18s did almost as good, where they beat Brighton and Hove Albion at the weekend as well. Now, they're still on top of the Premier League under-18s Premier League, sorry. They're still top of that division with a 3-1 win over Brighton. A well-balanced game saw goals from Mehmet Halim, Josh Briggs and Tyron Akpata. Halim tucked away the ball in the bottom right-hand corner with his left foot on 42 minutes. The Hammers pushed for a second after a break, and Josh Ajala hit the woodwork. Briggs peeled back to post head home the rebound. Brighton pulled a goal back, but a third West Ham goal eventually arrived when Akpata finished a superb counter-attack late on. Now, they've got a game. Their next game is also against Chelsea at the weekend. Now, it could be quite a crucial game for the under-18s, but because despite them being first place in under-18s Premier League, they're 3 points ahead of Chelsea, but Chelsea have got 3 games in hand over them. So by beating them at the weekend could be absolutely vital to maybe extending that 3-point lead a little bit. A bit of loan news. A couple of players have been playing this weekend. Wickham beat Northampton 2-0 with Freddie Potts playing the whole 90 minutes and Gideon Kodua coming on after 59 minutes. So it's good to see that Potts is continue. He's done exceptionally well for Wickham Wanderers, and it's good to see Kodua actually featuring. We were quite concerned, to be quite honest with you, that he wasn't going to get much game time. It's quite disappointing when players go out on loan and not get any game time. Keenan Apai-Fulsan played the whole 90 minutes for Dagenham and Redbridge, where they beat Maidenhead 4-1 in the Vanarama National League. Well done to him. I'm really pleased he's getting a bit of game time. Now, of course, Callum Marshall, who is now on loan at West Bromwich Albion, is unfortunately not getting any game time. And that is a real shame, because I really had high hopes, thinking that he was likely to sort of get a bit of good game time, not starting, but certainly as a sub in the Championship. But it's not materialising, and I can't remember the West Brom manager's name, and talking about how difficult it is for loan signings to get any game time, young players getting any game time. Why did you take him then? What was the reason? I know they had one or two injuries to some of their strikers, but they weren't long-term injuries. So it's a real shame that Callum Marshall has gone there and he's only warming the bench now. In France, in League One, defender Thilo Kehrer played for a whole 90 minutes for Monaco, who battled to a 2-2 draw against Lorient. So well done to him. And other players out on loan. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, I don't have any more pictures. Defeats for goalies Nathan Trott and Christian Heggie, who are both out on loan. Heggie then got called up for the Hungary under-21s international team. That's what I forgot to do. A whole host of players have been called up for international duty, including some of the under-21s, and I forgot to write all the details down. But you can look it up on the official West Ham website. Injury news. Well, guess what? Maxwell Cornet has got a grade 2 hamstring injury, which means that not only has he been out for the last couple of weeks, but he could be out probably until the end of March. Will he be back in time for the game against Newcastle when we return from our international break? I do not know. But that is why maybe David Moyes had been trying to be a bit careful with how he uses Maxwell Cornet. He's out injured again. He's had too many injuries throughout his tenure at West Ham United. It hasn't gone well for him whatsoever. Right, a few more comments, then I'm going to go into the review of the games. I'm going to look at Freiburg briefly, going to look at the Aston Villa game briefly, and I'm also going to talk about our next opponents in the Europa League, which is, of course, Bayer Leverkusen. So, what have we got here? Let's scroll down. Brian. Who remembers the skateboarding donkey giving up? What are you going on about? You lot are winding me up. Stop it. Leslie, you're doing really well. You have no likes. Come on, people. I've got no likes. Well, you know, I've got 183 viewers, or 184 now. So, you know, hit that bloody like button. Graham, we will see the Fulham game in Canada. We get them all live on Fubo TV. Where there's a will, Graham, there's a way. We get to watch games even if they're not televised, because we know they're televised abroad. So someone finds a link to televise it here. Well, to allow you to watch it here. Bedfordshire. Does anyone know if tickets for the Bayer Leverkusen game be made available for general sale? They've just gone on sale to season ticket holders. I think we've got a window. I don't know when that window is, mate. And then they will. There'll come a point where they will go on sale. If there are any left, they will go on general sale. But I dare say they're going to be quite sought after. Daniela, Steve Harley, Cockney Rebel, passed away this weekend. I'm sure he was a Hammers fan. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. I didn't know if he was or not, but Steve Harley, that's a name blast from the past. What else have we got? Jerry. When I got my refereeing badge, we were always told that refs at top level and grassroots followed the same rules. That's not the case now. The offside and handball rules are as clear as mud. They are indeed. We don't know what the rules are anymore. Daniela, Bill, I was lighting engineer. Oh, you were for Cockney Rebel. Good evening, Lee. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Dan, I met Cornet in Westfield the day he signed for us. Poor lad. Is that the last time you saw him? Bill, I don't talk about lighting. Just took out my whole house cutting through the wrong wire at the weekend. Oh, dear. Mikey, Cornet muscles must have probably seized up because Moyes won't give him any game time. That's the reason. Oh, mate. Right, let's go into the next part of the show and then I can get myself a bit of water. So let's start with the positive, shall we? Because the positive was quite a good positive. and that was the game against Freiburg at last Thursday. Look, people were even apprehensive about that. We came away from Germany with a 1-0 defeat, and many were saying that's the end of our time in Europa League. But we came out flying, didn't we? A couple of changes were made to the lineup that played the weekend before against Burnley. I think there were about 4 changes. Fabianski, of course. Creswell came in because of the injury to Emerson, and 1 or 2. Was that it? Maybe only 2 changes. Look, the lineup was strong. The lineup was a good lineup. We know that Fabianski is always going to play in the cup competitions, so there was no surprise there. And I was speculating whether we were actually going to get either Ben Johnson or Creswell starting as a left back. I thought it'd be Johnson, but was not to be. Look, the setup was right. Everything was right about that setup. We had a balanced team. Paqueta started in the middle. Kudus, who I'm not like overly keen on playing on the left-hand side of attacking midfield, started on the left with Bowen on the right and Antonio up front. It was balanced. It was a good team. And lo and behold, it proved to be just that, because we got out of the blocks flying, didn't we? You know, taking 8 minutes just to get the first goal. It was good to see that settled us down and put us on on the up. Antonio coming back made a huge difference. Look, you know, if you watch my show long enough, that I've been quite critical of Antonio. I still maintain that we should have an alternative to Antonio. We shouldn't be relying. I think it's his birthday this month. Maybe he's already 34. We shouldn't be relying on a player of Antonio's age as well as his injury record to lead the line. But we still haven't found that right type of striker that Moyes can utilize in the same way that he does Antonio. People say when Antonio's on form, he's unique, and he is. He's a different kind of beast, and he's, with great credit to him, since he's been back from injury, he's played superbly well. So we had a balanced team. We're on the front foot all the time. And of course, when you're attacking, that of course takes the pressure off your defenders and makes them more comfortable as well. But one player who we're going to miss over the next few games, of course, is Alvarez, who got an unnecessary yellow card against Freiburg. And had he not picked up a yellow card, all cards would have been wiped off for the next stage, for the quarterfinals, which is a shame because he now misses the first leg of the game against Leverkusen. It's going to be a massive miss for us over in Germany in a few weeks' time. But of course, he picked up his 10th yellow card in the Premier League at the weekend as well, didn't he? Which means now he's got a 2-game ban. He's got a ban against Spurs and I think against Newcastle. I mean, he's going to be a huge loss. He's been superb for us. Indeed, he has been. But look, I think it was a really good performance. You know, we went 2-0 up by half time, deservedly so. But for me, the goal that really settled us down when we knew that the game was over was Creswell's goal, which settled it. Wonderful strike. You know, he lined it up. Beautiful little strike. He placed it into the far corner. You know, one thing I realized, I was saying it to friends at the stadium at the weekend, was every goal went into the left side of the corner of the goalie. So, you know, maybe they looked at potentially that that was the goalie's weak side. But did you know every goal that was scored, all 5 goals were scored by left footers? Bowen, Creswell, 2 from Kudus as well. All the goals were scored by left footers. Oh, and Paqueta scored a goal as well. All left footers. That's interesting, isn't it? That'd be a quiz question in a few years' time, won't it? Name the game where all the goals were scored by left footers. Anyway, the Kudus show, of course, turned up later on. He had a stunning, 15, 20 minutes at the end, where he just took over the show, didn't he? That mazy run was just one of the best goals we're going to see for a long, long time to come. Fantastic, you know, superb. And I think it did us the world of good. I think we came away from that game feeling really sort of high energy, etc. I was really, really pleased. It was a superb game. But then, of course, we went into the game against Aston Villa at the weekend, and people had a different view, didn't they? And this is what we've been talking about in the chat. look, we start off with the starting 11. There was only a couple of changes made. It was Emerson was back from injury, and of course Areola was back in goal as well. So the setup itself was right. The balance was right. He kept Antonio in the team, could have started out on the left again, Paquetá in the middle, and so on and so forth. So, strictly speaking, with Emerson and Areola back, you'd say we should have been a bit, we were stronger. And I think it showed in the first half, to be quite honest with you. I think we deserved to go into the first half being a goal up. I think we deserved it. I think we played better than Villa. They came at us a little bit, but we had the better of it in the first half. And we started off quickly as well, didn't we? But first of all, I'm going to go, not first of all, I'm going to go into certain things that I think were key moments for West Ham United in this game. So bear with me 1 second while I get the details up. First of all, the Kudus disallowed goal. Now, for me, the Kudus disallowed goal was soft. I was trying to look to see what it was, why that was disallowed. And it felt as if they gave an infringement by Antonio on the goalkeeper Martinez. But if that was really an infringement, that was soft, to be honest with you. But apparently people saying that the referee blew the whistle before Kudus struck the ball. So I don't know. Weak. It was a weak decision because I couldn't see too much in it. The great performance by Antonio, of course, was marred by the disallowed goal. Now, again, inconclusive. I've been looking at that video, the VAR video. Did it come off his arm? I know in the post-match interview he talked about I could understand why my goal wasn't given, but it looked as if it came off somewhere around here, off his shoulder. Now, do you remember the rule that if it comes if it touches the sleeve of your shirt, it's not handball, it's off your shoulder, and it should be allowed. So I think that was harsh. I think that particular disallowed goal was very harsh. And then the longest ever VAR check, 5 minutes, 37 seconds, to decide whether Souček's goal was a goal or not. Like we were saying earlier, there should be a time limit, a couple of minutes. And if they can't make up their minds after a couple of minutes, the VAR officials, then the goal should be given, to be quite honest with you. I just don't think it should have taken that long. And it did prove inconclusive. And I think because of that, the goal should have stood. And I do think we got cheated. I'm going to talk about Moyes' tactics in a minute, but I do think we actually got cheated from one of those two decisions, or even three decisions should have gone our way. Now, okay, people are talking about, well, what about the substitutions? Now, my theory is this. Now, when I did the review straight after the game, I said I thought the substitutions were wrong. And, I think that put us on the back foot, etc., etc. But I've had time to think about it. And I've had time to sort of decide, to reanalyze whether those substitutions were the right things to do or not. And here's my revised opinion. Antonio was flagging 65 minutes in. Apparently, he was already sort of looked over on the sidelines to suggest that maybe he should be taken off. So Antonio coming off, I think it was the right thing to do. He was flagging. He wasn't holding the ball up as well. The ball was just coming straight back at us because he wasn't able to do what he was doing for the first hour or so of the game. So I understood why Antonio was subbed. Was it right to sub him for Ben Johnson? Yes, and here's why. Because we were under the cosh, especially on the left-hand side. I think Digne was brought on, and I think they were targeting our right side of defence. And they were, both sides really. They were continuously going down the flanks. So by bringing on Ben Johnson, who, by the way, has played as a right midfielder before, it's not the first time he's played on the right midfield. By bringing on Ben Johnson to go on the right side of midfield and bringing Jared Bowen into the centre, I think was the right thing to do. Now, why Bowen? Everyone's saying, well, he's played out of position. Well, Bowen, ironically, has led the line for most part of this season because of the fact that Antonio has been injured. And Bowen is our top goal scorer. So I get he's the next best option to play the striker role, the solo striker role within our squad. Danny Ings is not. We've all said that many a time. Danny Ings is only better if he's got someone by his side. Hence, the way he played the other week when he had support around him. So I got it. I understood it. At the time, I was frustrated. It was like, why on earth did we do that? Antonio was, the marksman, etc., up front. But after thinking about it, I understood it. Bone was brought in a position that he's played most of this season. We needed someone to go out right, a bit more defensive minded, and Johnson was that. Now, people will say, well, why not bring on Ward-Prowse or why not bring on Phillips? You're not going to put Ward-Prowse or Phillips or Souček or anyone else that was staying on the pitch out on the right-hand side. Ben Johnson has played as a right midfield. He's played as a right wing-back. He's played as right-back. So, yes, logically, it kind of made sense why Johnson came in and then put Bone in the middle. So I got that. And I understand what people are saying. Oh, but look at what it's done. Psychologically, you've brought a defender on for a striker, and that's given them the upper hand. Aston Villa had the upper hand in the second half. They came out, they made changes, and they came at us. They weren't going to sit and try and get a lucky goal. They wanted to go out not only to get a goal, an equaliser. They wanted to go out and win the game. And David Moyes needed to try and stem that flow. Did it do it? No, it didn't work that well, to be quite honest with you. I'm not going to lie. I understood the substitution. The execution was not as great, unfortunately. But I got it. I understood it. And then the whole Paquetá and Emerson changes. Now, to be quite honest with you, Emerson was also, you got to remember, he's only just come back from injury. He needed to be taken off. And I got it. I understood why Creswell actually didn't do too badly out on the left side when he replaced Emerson. But I think the substitution for Paquetá, he started to do a few wayward passes. But I would have preferred to have kept Paquetá on rather than bringing on James Ward-Prowse, because I think it made us a bit weaker in midfield when Ward-Prowse came on. But here's the irony. Ward-Prowse created one of our best chances late on in the game. And he also had a very good chance himself, when if he just steadied himself and placed it rather than try to whack it, I think he might have placed it in the corner of the goal rather than hitting the defender full on. So I was disappointed, ironically, in hindsight, with the latter changes. And Moyes did then go around about the 80th, whatever time that was, when both JWP and I think Phillips came on as well as Creswell. That's when he decided he was going to go for the draw. Yeah, I get it. The last sort of 10 minutes of the game. But people are complaining that Moyes sort of conceded right from the start of the second half. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is it's a bit of a mix, because I think Aston Villa came out. They went all got. They had really good possession. We couldn't get the ball off them. You could see David Moyes from the sidelines urging the team to push up, keep pushing up, and instead we kept dropping deeper and deeper and deeper. So who's right, who's wrong here? If the manager is saying push up, but the players themselves are dropping deeper, then what's going on there? It looks like we have a little bit of fear at time. When we don't have the ball, we have a little bit of fear. But I think for me, making those late changes certainly meant that Moyes was happy with a 1-1 draw around about the 80th minute of the game. But to suggest that he conceded on the 65th minute when Antonio came off, I don't buy that. Yes, okay, he was going to try and keep it at 1-1 later on in the game, but not in the 65th minute, to be quite honest with you. We needed to make changes. Were they the right changes? Well, I guess logically they seem to be the right changes to make, but they just didn't work out the way that we expected them to. What else is there to talk about? Well, there are one or two other things, aren't there? There is, of course, why this player didn't get sent off. A few minutes before, Mavropanos kicked the ball away and got a yellow card. Zaniolo was already on a yellow card. He booted the ball away and nothing happened. He didn't get a second yellow. Why didn't he get a second yellow card? I don't understand that. Well, this is the inconsistency of the refereeing that we have at the moment. So it's not only VAR, but it's also like what the referee is doing or not doing on the pitch that is really, really frustrating. Why did the referee yellow card Mavropanos but didn't yellow card Zaniolo for both doing exactly the same thing within minutes of each other? And then, of course, there's a penalty decision that many Aston Villa fans will be saying went against them. But I don't think that was a penalty. I think the player that I can't remember the player's name that kicked the ball, Emerson had his hands down. Yes, they were slightly out wide, but he didn't deliberately move his hand towards the ball. He didn't try to stop the ball like like the Zuma did the other week. You know, Zuma actually moved his arm out, and that was definitely a penalty. Emerson had his hands, firmly down by his side. He didn't move his hand to the ball, which is why they didn't get the penalty that they said they deserved. Look, I get it, what people are saying. I understood what people have been saying about David Moyes throwing the game, etc., conceding, dropping back. It's back to Moyes' ball, etc. It was back to Moyes' ball in the last 10 minutes of the game. It certainly wasn't for me all of the second half, and it certainly wasn't for me in the 65th minute when Antonio was taken off, because Moyes tried to use like for like. I know you're going to say that Bowen is better out on the right, etc. We know that, but like I said earlier, Bowen has played that role for most of this season because we haven't had Antonio. So I get why he put Bowen in that position and he put someone on the right in order to try and stem that attack going down there. So some of the things he got right. I think some of the other things he didn't get right, David Moyes. The substitution of Emerson, I got it. The substitution of Paquetá, I would have kept Paquetá on for a little bit longer, maybe just another 5-10 minutes, because you never know with Paquetá, what he could do, what he might be able to spring, but he was mispassing the ball a few times, but I would have kept him on a bit longer. And then, of course, as we all sort of talked about earlier, the refereeing decision. VAR and referees in this country need a major overhaul. We're never going to get rid of it. We're stuck with it. But as people have been saying, when you are waiting 5 minutes, 37 seconds for a decision to be made, there's something seriously, seriously wrong with the way we manage VAR. Clearly, there's something amiss. As we've alluded to earlier, people were talking about, I talked about the World Cup and other people talking about the Champions League. Clearly, there's something different in the way VAR is managed in this country, or no, in the Premier League to what it is elsewhere. Right, let's go into your comments and see. I'm sure that you're going to have an awful lot to say about what I've just said. Let's scroll down. Jerry. Hammer, it's not the actual law, it's how it's administered. I think VAR has had more of a negative effect on the game than, again, we have how many. Then again, we had so many moaning managers that went well. Leslie, for Leverkusen away, would Johnson and Souček be in holding midfield? I don't know. I think it might be. It's going to be a choice between Johnson or Phillips. It's going to be one of those two. What else have we got? Martin, I know Antonio is at that stage too old, so it's so difficult to find a Premier League striker, though. It is difficult, but I'm hoping we've got to find the right striker in the summer, haven't we? Hammer it. Just pray that we don't bring them back to the London Stadium on a drubbing. A draw or 1-0 down is doable. Sharky, does anyone think Phillips will start another game this season? I do. We've got we're going to have, as I've said earlier, we're going to have Alvarez missing for 2 Premier League games and 1 European game. It's quite possible that we might see him start again. Montana, do I want it? I don't know. I'd rather Johnson maybe start as a holding midfielder, to be honest with you. Still, when Forest get relegated, we shall go for Awoniyi, Elanga, Gibbs-White, Murillo. Don't disagree. Awoniyi is a bit like an Antonio, isn't he? Elanga, not so sure. Gibbs-White, definitely. Murillo, yeah, good young centre-back. Totally agree with that. Bill, Antonio has been called up for Jamaica for pointless game against USA. Will be jet-lagged for a few games unless picks up an injury. There you go. He'll be out for the rest of the season again. Crafty Dave, have I missed much? Been away for a long weekend, lots of GNT and no football. Good luck to you, Crafty Dave. No, you haven't missed much at all. You probably captured most of it. We're talking about the decisions made by Moyes and the decisions made by VAR. Jerry, Ross Barkley is playing well at the moment for Luton. He reminds me of Noble. Maybe next season. I think there was rumour that we were interested in Ross Barkley when he was in the French league. I can't remember what club he was playing for. Was it Nice, I think? But we didn't go for him. John, here we go. Flip flop. Come on, Stel. Who has thrown you a bun? Well, you tell me what you think of what I've said without swearing. Trini, the reason why it was wrong to bring on Johnson because it moved Bowen from his strongest position. I don't disagree with that, Trini. Yeah, I do agree. He's good on the right side, but he's the next best option we've got to play the lone striker role. David Moyes is not going to put two up front, especially when Aston Villa are chasing the game as well. There's no way we're going to put two players up front. That would have been the wrong thing to do. We all moan about Danny Ings can't play the lone striker role. And when he's been tried in that position, everyone's going, David Moyes doesn't know what he's doing. He's playing Danny Ings. Doesn't he know that Danny Ings needs support around him? So I get why Danny Ings wasn't brought on for Antonio, because he would have been lost in that role. We were under the cosh at the time. We weren't going to get anywhere close to Danny Ings. So I understand why Bowen was pushed out there into the middle. Well, there you go. The game was screaming for Ings. But we would have all been complaining if Danny Ings was left isolated up front and didn't get involved in the game. I don't think it was the right game for him. Bill, subs were right, but took too long to react to Villa's changes at half time. 10 minutes late. Moyes waited around 65 minutes to make changes. That's a good point. Maybe Moyes should have made the changes sooner. Ironically, I thought, wow, 65 minutes and Moyes is making a substitution. I thought that was quite early for him. But that's a good point, Bill. Maybe we should have made the changes sooner. It's a good point. Graham, I think Barkley is having a great season and would be a good addition to our squad. I don't know. I don't know. He's shining at the moment in what's quite an average Luton team. Would he be better in a team like West Ham? I don't know. It's an interesting one. John, is it me or does it look like Stell's reading a prepared script written by Sean Whetstone or David Moyes? Dean, hi Stell. Bringing on Johnson exacerbated the defensive problems as we sat even deeper with zero outball. That's a good point. Yeah, I accept that. That's a really, really good point because it's brought up, it made us defend deeper. Yeah. Bill, H.H. Clark without 10 kids. I heard it on another channel when they were complaining. What? Obsidian. Ings played a great as a number 10, so should have moved Qatar left, Kudus right, Ings behind Bowen, Johnson too negative as sub. That's a decent shout. Would that have worked? Kept Bowen, get Kudus and Bowen out wide. I'll take that. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. But the Pablo, it wasn't a game for Ings. There you go. See, I'll be honest, Obsidian, I didn't think of that. Would that have worked? Maybe keeping Ings as a number 10, so deeper, and then maybe keeping Paquetá alongside him, and then keeping Kudus and Bowen out wide. Yeah, I'll take that. Hammers Mikey. Now Alvarez. So back to a midfield of three. Socek, JWP, and Phillips. How exciting. Well, I don't think we're going to have much choice, to be quite honest with you. Leslie, still, you're right. Johnny was the best option, but Villa had changed formation and we stayed the same. That was the weakness. Fair play. Yeah, I get that. I haven't been got to. Bill, Barry Clark, no relation, said to you had 10 kids, didn't want two Clarks to be mixed up. You're having your own private conversation. You just carry on there. John, he didn't take a second yellow because PJ, should have got a yellow, shouldn't he? Should have got a definite second yellow. De Pablo, the player saw the arm out and struck the ball at it exactly, which is why it wasn't a penalty. Galispera to you, Keith. I hope you're well, mate. Patrick, not giving the home team a goal due to handball is hardly bottling it. Well, I think he bottled the. I think Patrick. I think the referee didn't know what to do. The referee gave it, and then VAR were like, "Hang on a minute, we're not sure." They couldn't make a decision, and then said to him, "Go on, you decide." That put doubt in the referee's mind. I think that's what I mean when I say he bottled it. Michael. That's the way football is going now. Kick the ball at defenders' hands and 50-50 you get a penalty. It's a weird one, isn't it? But you're absolutely right. Jamaica game is a friendly Obsidian, ridiculous amount of traveling for a meaningless game, and you know who's going to be making that ridiculous amount of traveling. AV had a great bench. We didn't. That was huge. They had a good bench. I'll be honest with you. Yes, when they were bringing players on, they were bringing players on to make a difference. Foxes. If Ings was never going to play, why put him on the bench? Well, I guess maybe if the game had been different, he might have got a bit of game time. Bill Zaniolo was the player who should have got the. Did I not say that? It was Zaniolo who should have got the second yellow. I agree. David Green. Moyes is the problem. It wasn't any ref on this planet of ours that made those poor subs. Time and time again, he does it. Having seen the game Thursday, he should have been more attack-minded, but he was more attack-minded in the first half. Aston Villa made the changes in the second half, and they came at us, and Moyes was trying to balance that out. It wasn't working for us keeping Antonio on. And Ings coming on, I got Obsidian's point about maybe putting Ings as a number 10 and maybe playing with a false 9. That might have worked. Michael, Jamaica game is a tournament USA semi. They play 3 or 4 final against Alvarez, against Mexico or Chile. Oh, I don't know. I'll have to look into that. But Alvarez is out for the next few games anyway, so it doesn't matter if he goes on international duty, so long as he doesn't get injured. Question from Leslie. Phillips do 90 and must be to hold. Can Phillips do 90 minutes and must be to holding to help him? I didn't understand, mates. You're going to have to rewrite that, Leslie. Sorry, mate. Didn't understand. Michael, the one that got me was the ref blowing up for a foul before letting the move finish for our Kudus goal and then let VAR decide. Yeah, that's the weird one, isn't it? Absolutely. Nando, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Have to disagree with you. DM panicked when he saw Emre making those subs. We had all the momentum and gave it away. I think we lost our momentum. I think we had it in the first half. Definitely, we were the better team. And in the second half, we came out with momentum, but we started to lose it. And that's because Antonio was flagging. But, fair point, mate. Toha. Ironically, if Phillips stayed at City, he'd probably be in the England squad. That's a good point. He would have been. I don't know how Barkley is. 31, 32 maybe. Evening, Scott. I hope you're well. Usual. Barkley's okay if you can keep him away from the pubs and clubs. He tends to fall off the wagon from time to time. That's all we need. Michael, anything over 3 minutes is clearly not clear and obvious. I think it should be 2. And I agree with you. I think it should be anything over 2 minutes is not clear and obvious. And then you've got to give the goal or whatever decision was made at the start. Evening, Trudge. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Andrew, our squad depth is our Achilles heel. This has to be one of the main issues Tim Steidten needs to sort out, starting with integrating Earthy, Skulls and Marshall into the squad. Don't disagree. Our squad depth is very small. Trudge, I thought we suffered the effects of the January window, having no depth, and they can bring on 4 really, really strong subs. I agree with that. True culture. To the person that said the Jamaican game is a friendly game, it's not. It's a semi-final Nations League game against USA. There you go. Sorry about that. Messed up. Andrew, the club messed up again in January. They never learn by their mistakes. I don't know who's responsible for what happened in the window, to be quite honest with you. I think it's a bit of all of them. The club, Moyes, maybe even Steidten. I don't know. Stevie. Jared Gillett is a substandard referee. He disallowed our equaliser against Chelsea in September. Whilst VAR ref, he did indeed. He's got plenty of form and lost control of that game. I agree with that as well. That was the last comment, and I'm only 1 minute and 1 minute. Oh no, I've got some more to do, haven't I? I've completely forgotten about a certain section of the show that I was going to talk about. There you go. I'm going to give you another 15 minutes on top. And we're going to talk very briefly about Bayer Leverkusen. Let me get my notes, see where I've got them. They're there somewhere. Did I write notes on Bayer Leverkusen? I'm sure I did, unless I was dreaming. Where are we? Here we go. So Bayer Leverkusen is the next game that we've got coming up in the quarterfinals, as you all know. Now, not many people are giving us a cat in hell's chance against an unbeaten Bayer Leverkusen so far this season. They survived, by the way, a Karabag team where in both legs of the last 16, the Karabag were reduced to 10 men in both games. And it took Bayer Leverkusen a late goal in the first leg to bring the game back to 2-2. I think it was the 92nd or 93rd minute of the game there. And then in the second game, 2 stoppage time goals got Bayer Leverkusen through. The first one, again, was something like 93 minutes into the game. And the second one, late goal, was 97 minutes into the game. All those late goals were scored by Patrick Schick, who is a very, very decent striker and a player that we were linked to in the past. Look, the team that we beat 5-0 last week, Freiburg, lost to Bayer Leverkusen at the weekend 3-2. So that in itself gives me a little bit of confidence that maybe it's not going to be as a foregone a conclusion as many will think. Now, the scoring against Freiburg started on just early in the game. I think 180 seconds into the game, a minute and a half into the game, where Florian Wirtz struck a beautiful ball just inside the 18-yard box, where he cut into the 18-yard box and curled the ball into the left-hand corner. He's a bit like our Kudus in a way, except that he's right-footed and he plays out on the left side and cuts in. Very, very good talent. Very talented young footballer. People say the world's his oyster. He could end up at, a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or somewhere like that, probably in the next season or two. He got the game off to a great start by scoring that superb goal. Now, Freiburg got back into it. Doyan, who is the Japanese international for Freiburg, did roughly the same sort of thing as Wirtz did to get Freiburg back in the game after about 10 minutes. It's the sort of thing that I thought Doyan was going to be one of those players that was going to really trouble West Ham when we were playing them, but not so. But he got Freiburg right back into the game. And then a terrible error from Freiburg's keeper gave Leverkusen the opportunity to go 2-1 up. And Adam Klosek, remember him? Yeah, another player that we've been linked to in the past, scored his first goal since September of last year. But the man of the match, of course, was Schick. Again, he's a goal machine. He got Leverkusen's third goal on the second half, and in the second half, and he's going to be absolutely a hand. They've got some really good front players, Bayer Leverkusen, players that could potentially really hurt us. Schick is one of them. I think Boniface or Bonifaci, I don't know how you pronounce his name, who's just coming back from injury, Nigerian international, is another player that we have to look out for if he's fit enough to face us. And Wirtz himself. They've got really decent front players. Now we have two. Interestingly, I think we can match them in our attacking players. I think we've got players that can hurt Bayer Leverkusen as well. The difference is going to be between the two teams is our defense, and this is where the game could be won or lost. Now Leverkusen have got decent players. Frimpong, I think he's out wide on the right, I think, who created one of their goals at the weekend. They've got Jonathan Tah, who looks like a bit of a machine. But what worries me is the pace. Like, for example, Schick, he's not only good in the air, he's got good ball control, he's got a good shot on him, he can head the ball, it can score from any foot, etc. And he's got pace as well. Wirtz has got pace as well. And I think that could be, those are the sort of players that could really, really hurt West Ham. Would our defence be able to stand up to those players? I think we've got a chance. But I think out of the two defences, maybe you might argue that it's Leverkusen who've got the slightly better. I think up until the weekend, I think they only conceded something like 18 goals in the Bundesliga, 16, 18 goals, and plus the 2 from Freiburg, so a few more. But they've got a very, very good, solid defence in the Bundesliga. They conceded a few more goals in Europe, which is the reason why I'm looking at it. I'm looking at Karabag, who scored a couple of goals against them, who scored 4 goals against them. I'm looking at Freiburg, who we thumped 5-0, and they scored 2 against them. I think we can get at them. I think it's going to be a tall order when it comes to the midfield without Alvarez. We've just been discussing him. Who might it be that might replace Alvarez? And it's going to be a choice. Moyes is going to have to choose either between putting James Ward-Prowse and Souček there, which I think will be a disaster. He might just have to go for Phillips and hope that Phillips has a decent game. But Phillips looked so nervous, didn't he, when he came on the other day against Freiburg. And then he might decide on Ben Johnson playing as a holding midfielder instead. So he's got options. They're not all great options, especially when you see the way Alvarez plays his game. But Alvarez shields our backline. You know, he's a master at doing that. And without him, it means our defense is going to be even more under pressure. And that kind of worries me. You know, I think Hammerett said if we can come back with a 0-0 or a 1-0 from their ground to our ground, that might not be so bad. Alvarez will be back for the second leg, which will be a huge, huge bonus. But it will be down to what happens in our defense, in our defensive midfield. I think they might have. I think they might be slightly stronger, but I do think we've got the players who are skillful enough to actually open them up, just like they are capable of opening us up. I think it's 50-50, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, to be really honest. I think we're in with a shout. Do I think we'll win? I think we might just scrape a half-decent result out there, and then the atmosphere on the night of the second leg in this quarterfinal game against Leverkusen is going to be electric. You know, the game is already beginning to sell out fast. So someone asked me earlier on, are the tickets going to go on general sale? I hope they do, because I want every seat filled. If season ticket holders are not turning up, I want every ticket filled, because having 62,000 fans in there cheering West Ham on, all right, they're going to have, I don't know, 3,000 for their fans, but having the rest cheering West Ham on a night like that is going to be immense. It could be, the atmosphere could be as big as the game that we had against Seville a couple of years ago. Can we do it? Why not? We stand every chance, like I said. You know, if we go out there and we get drubbed 3-0 or something like that, then, you know, it could be game over. But this is maybe the time when Moyes ball comes into its own. You know, if we go out there and come away with a 0-0 or a 1-1 or even a 1-0 defeat, I don't want that. But even if that, you know, there's every chance in the second leg. But they've got some very talented players up front. I'll do more of a review, a proper sort of outlook on Leverkusen over the coming weeks. We've got an international break, so I've got one or two shows lined up to bring it to you, and maybe that'll be one of them. Right, what comments have we got going forward? Michael, VAR is not broken; it's the idiots using it, or it's the idiots using it. All refs are so mates with the person on the pitch. Billy Bob, you've caressed that like button. Thank you, mate. Trodge, why do these things happen to us from refs? I.e. Lanzini got sent off. Who had sent? Yeah, do you remember that? That Lanzini sent her off a couple of seasons ago. Never happened to anybody else. Leslie again. Question, can Phillips play a full 90 minutes and need two DMs to help him as he can't cope on his own? Good question. Does he need two DMs? Well, Moyes will certainly play a 4-2-3-1 formation. It depends on who is going to be alongside him, and it's quite likely to be Souček or probably Souček. Can he play a full 90 minutes? That I don't know, mate. We haven't seen him play a full 90 minutes since he's been with us. Maybe he's ready. Maybe this is his time. Maybe he can show us, roll back the clock and show us what he's like as when he was at Leeds United. Bill, you've got to pick the 12 players to play Alonso. I will do. Quite honestly, do you know what I think it will be? It'll be the players that were out on the pitch on Sunday. So you're going to have, I don't have screenshot, I'm afraid, but you'll have Fabianski in goal, because that's what Moyes will do. You'll have Fabianski in goal, Soufal, Mavropanos, Zuma, and Emerson. Maybe Phillips or Johnson with Souček alongside him. I can't decide. Maybe Phillips or Johnson, and then Bowen, Paquetá, Kudus, and Antonio up front. That's what I'm going to go for. The only one I can't decide on is whether it's going to be Phillips or Johnson playing in that defensive midfield role. What else have we got? Martin, Leverkusen is such a tough game. It will be, but then you've got to beat the best in order to get to the final. Toha, I see you have top 6K subscriptions. I have. Thank you all, Pete. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm not just joking when I say it. I'm very humbled by that. That I've got 6,000 subscribers. I never thought I'd get to 5. So thank you for that. Now, for those of you who haven't subscribed yet watching this show, hit that subscribe button. Sharky, England are against Brazil this Saturday. Paquetá could be playing. We just hope the players... I'm sorry I didn't bring you all the players that got selected for international duty. I forgot to do it. But let's hope those West Ham players who play this weekend and the other game that's coming up do not get injured. True culture. I would like to see West Ham win this Europe Cup this season. It will be very, very hard to do so. But boy, oh boy, imagine if we did. Michael, Lever beat Freiburg 3-2 away, so they do concede. Absolutely. Stevie, TalkSport and majority of the press saying Liverpool have won the Europa League trophy. Do you know what I've said? Right, here's the scenario, yeah? Liverpool get through to the final. West Ham tough it out, get past Leverkusen, and then have to get past an Italian team, whether it be Milan or Roma. Let's make it Milan and really go for it. So we beat them. We beat Leverkusen. We get to the final. We play 89 minutes of Moyes ball. And then we get a corner on the 89th, just past the 89th minute. The ball is swept across. Thomas Souček, much maligned, heads it into the back of the net. We win that game 1-0. I would fucking build a fucking statue for David Moyes if that happened. Beating Jurgen Klopp in the last game of his tenure at Liverpool, playing low block for the whole game and winding them up with half of Dublin Liverpool fans as well, and we walk away with that European trophy. I'd fucking love it. There you go. I'm a dreamer. That's why I'm always half positive. Matt Hammerett, I don't really enjoy conspiracies, but it's so hard to think any different. The last 3 games we have had, awful decisions go against us. Andrew, people said the same about Seville. If we can come back with a 1-0 or 2-1 aggregate scoreline, we have a great chance. Absolutely, 100% agree. Michael, worry against Lever if we don't have him. So who knows what could happen. Chlozek, I wanted him. He hasn't scored since September. He's got his first goal the other day, mates. Stevie, well, they're playing us Leverkusen or Roma. Well, they're playing us Leverkusen or Roma in the final. No, the way the draw's been worked out is West Ham United play, of course, Leverkusen in the next round. And if we get through that, we play either Roma or Milan in the semi-final in order to meet whoever it may be coming through the other side. Trod Schick is another player who turns us down. Not too sure that he turned us down. There was interest, but then you've got to make a bid in order for him to turn us down. John, 180 seconds is 3 minutes. What did I say? 90 seconds. Sorry. Not a minute. All right. I bet Stills Mrs. Disappointment goes looking for... All right. Martin, I would love to know how the Leverkusen fans feel about drawing us. Well, someone commented on one of my shows because when we got the draw, I did a very brief video the other day that we got Leverkusen and blah, blah, and spoke a little bit about them then. And someone went, he thought the game was won. He was a Leverkusen fan. He was taking the piss. They think it's a foregone conclusion. Trini, I can't see how we get past them, to be honest. You never know, mate. This is the beauty of football. Hammerett, their Freiburg result has given me a bit of hope. Exactly that. Trini, we might be able to get them to get to them, but can we stop them from getting at us? This is it. I agree. They've got a very, very good attacking lineup. Stevie, glad we got Leverkusen. We'll beat them. Very confident, especially if we come back to London level or just one down. Andrew, I thought they looked suspect at the back. They're not unbeatable. Totally agree. Martin, VAR should have 1 minute to make a decision. If not, it goes with the on-field decision. Phillips is pony. No excuse. The squad need to get on with it. Come on, you Irons. Absolutely, mate. I think 2 minutes is reasonable, but any longer than that, I think then you're absolutely right. We should be looking at whatever decision that the referee made at the time. If Moyes beats Alonso, it will be 2. Well, this is it, isn't it? Because every West Ham fan wants Alonso to be our manager. Moyes goes out there. What if we beat Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen? Will it still be Moyes out for many people? I don't know. Let's scroll down. Bill, if we can get past Leverkusen, it will justify Moyes continuing, but I'm still up for coach change at the end of the season. John, where's your comment? If you are filling me with confidence, God, I hope we don't nouse it up, mate. You got to be confident. This is the beauty of football. This is exactly why we love the game, because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. If we knew what the outcome would be, we wouldn't bother with it. We wouldn't get so passionate about it. That is why football is the way. All right, I know other sports are the same, but the beauty of football is you can go out there, look at the Premier. Why is the Premier League the best league in the world? Because you can get a team down at the bottom can beat the team at the top. You look at all these European leagues, you're never going to get an upset. You'll get the odd upset, but not like in the Premier League. You know that in the Bundesliga there are 2, 3, 4 teams that are always going to be up there, and everybody else is way down. The French league is the same. The Italian league is the same. All these other leagues, you don't get the lowly teams getting a chance. They get the odd once in a blue moon. Whereas in the Premier League, yeah, all right, we know the greedy 6 are going to be there or thereabouts, but anyone can go and beat them. They can get beaten by. Look, it happens, doesn't it? And that's why we love football, and that's why I'm quietly confident. Do I think it's going to be easy? Fuck no. Of course it ain't going to be easy. Stevie, yeah, we've got technology, but open to interpretation by humans. Get rid of the humans. Mark, first leg, no Alvarez. Need to keep it close. Time for Phillips to step up. This is it. It could be. It could be. Andrew, accentuate the positive. Come on, Stel. Come on. Exactly. You got to be positive. By the time we get to that game, you're all going to be like Stel said. Oh, that bastard, he lied. Michael, Bayern undefeated 38 games, but when we played Seville, they had never lost in the Europa Cup. Cup football, anything can happen. Exactly that. Montana. Still, Moyes brought Phillips to replace Alvarez. It didn't buy him to replace him, to be as a backup for him. Well, he had his wish in the next 3 games. Let's see what he can deliver. Exactly. I said when we got Phillips, I was like, oh, it could work out. It could be a good move by Moyes. And one thing that we did talk about, in the summer transfer window, we talked about, I certainly said the most important position we had to buy was a central defensive midfielder. And then when we got Alvarez, we're like, fuck me, look at this bloke. And then it's like, shit, if he goes out, suspensions, injury or whatever, we need a backup. So when we got Phillips, I was like, yeah, all right. But Phillips, he's lost so much form, hasn't he? Stevie, Leverkusen won't go through the whole season without losing. Exactly that. Andrew, we may have to shithouse a result in Germany. Won't be pretty. Moyes can do this well. Bloody hell. Oh, see? Moyes ball. It's got a purpose. Sharky, everyone remembers to like, please do. Thank you, Sharky. Much appreciated, mate. See you soon. Foxes. How much more proof do we need that low block don't work? Let's find out in Germany, shall we? Hammerette, hope the gap closes on Leverkusen at the top before we play them. Hopefully give them something else to focus on. They've got a 10-point gap, I think, at the moment. So that is quite a big gap, to be honest. Trodge, we used to do a high block during COVID. It must have been as everyone's lungs were messed up. Bill, I could stand Moyes ball in Germany if we come back with a draw, then attack at home for the win. There you go. Mark, what was your favourite VAR moment, Stel? Mine was when they rewound the tape to a Socek tackle 15 seconds earlier. The goal stood for us. I don't know. I don't have any memorable VAR moments. I try and forget them as quickly as they come around. Black Country, that's it from me. Thank you, Black Country. Much appreciated, mate. Have a great night and a great week ahead. Steve, Leverkusen also have 2 devastating wing-backs, Grimaldo and Frimpong, who could tear us apart. Very, very true. Steve, not quite, but close. Scott, I'll be honest. Well, it's the first thing that came out of my head. Peter, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. The Premiership is corrupt, has been from the start, so no surprise. We just have to live with it. It's such a shame that people think that, but I get it. Foxes, we will go 1-0 up against Leverkusen. On a 55, Moyes will bring Coco the clown. Andrew, we're always at our best when we are the underdogs. I really fancy us to pull off a shock. Trodge, can we play Pac-Man Alvarez's position? No. Paqueta has got a lot of mistakes in him, you know, and at least when he makes mistakes, they're further up the field. I get really worried when he makes mistakes closer to our goal. No. Early doors, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Montana. Still, what is this new Sunak bill for football to be tabled next week? I don't know. I've not followed it, but I'll look into it and talk about it when I know a bit more about it. I'll promise you that. I've got 2 weeks, no West Ham, so I can look at stories and do something about that as well. Trini, the only way for me, for Moyes to stay after this season is if we win the Europa League. Not asking for much then. Jonathan, just reminding you all, we played them in pre-season. They slapped us 4-0, top of the league by 10 points. So one game maybe, but both not so sure. To be honest with you, I hold no ground on that because when we played them and we lost 4-0, we didn't have Kudus, we didn't have Paquetá, we didn't have, I don't think we had Bowen, maybe we did. I can't remember. We didn't have Alvarez, we didn't have half the players that we've now got. Pre-season, who cares about it? You know, I really don't hold up much on that. I know people are looking at it and going, oh, Jesus Christ, they smashed us 4-0. Very different, mate. Very, very different. Andrew, we also would have learned a lot from them pre-season when they beat us 4-0. Could be a blessing in disguise, that defeat. There you go. There's the positive to that. Leslie, they think our pre-season showing is all that we are capable of. Their fans are all looking forward to the Italians. Some of the fans think they're world-class because they lead the Bundesliga. They're not, are they? Let's see how good they are in a few weeks' time. A Gerd could work, probably be more confident with him there over Phillips. That's a good, interesting shout, that. Trodge, you know, maybe playing a Gerd as a central defensive midfielder. Yeah, interesting. Montana. Leslie, this Leverkusen team have never experienced Moyes ball. They won't even reckon what hit them. Look, you're all going to be loving Moyes ball if we get a result against Leverkusen. True culture. I always say to myself, when a team wins, the coach gets all the praise. But if the team loses, it's a different story. When the players actually get to take the responsibility of the team and performance. Well, not with West Ham, I'm afraid, true culture. When we win, it's got nothing to do with David Moyes. It's apparently that's all down to the players and the other coaches, etc. But when we lose, it's all down to Moyes, of course. Andrew, Agerd is a technically good baller. He could play defensive midfield. That's an interesting shout. Interesting, yeah. Andrew, how about in the final, Paqueta fouled by Salah in the 93rd minute, gets off the floor to slam home a 25-yard winner. I don't care. Do you know what? Honestly, let's get Liverpool in the final. Let's get to the final and let's get Liverpool in the final because everyone's going to think it's a foregone conclusion. We owe them big time. 2006, we owe them big time. And I think maybe they'll get their comeuppance. E. Davis, both VAR decisions were correct, though. So, well, you know, we talked about that a lot earlier on, mate. And I still don't think either were that conclusive. Robin, will Boniface be back? Well, he's due back from injury at the beginning of April, is my understanding. Whether he'll be fit enough or not is another matter. Mark, Liverpool and West Ham final would be sweet. Scratch and Sniff, good evening to you. Judge, as a Villa fan, you're very welcome. And a few things I noticed on Sunday is you guys are relatively well organised. A concern I see was how Antonio struggled with fitness by the goal. We talked about this earlier, and you're most welcome, by the way, mate. Always welcome fans from other clubs here. We talked about that, and people were asking why we made the changes and why Antonio was taken off. And you're absolutely right. He wasn't fit enough to see out the 90 minutes. But then the concern was, why didn't we bring on maybe Danny Ings? But as you know, he played for Villa. Danny Ings is not a lone striker, so that wouldn't have worked. But we do try to be well organised. A lot of people sometimes say too organised that it becomes boring. George, but you're doing very well, by the way. All credit to you. George, brilliant chat. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. From Scotland, George, thank you for watching and commenting, mate. Toha, never had a problem with Moyes ball for some games, just not every game, and never against poorer teams. And on that, oh no, I've got more. There you go. Early doors, let's put your comment in. Moyes ball we trust according to Stel. Troj Antonio seemed to drop off after he hurt his shoulder. He did get quite a knock on his shoulder as well. Good point. Forgot to mention that. Michael Q, could Dublin cope with a West Ham Liverpool final? We'll soon find out. Love it though, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Come on. I'll sleep in the fucking car if I have to. If I can't get a hotel room, I'll sleep in the car for 3 nights. I'll smell, but who cares? Going to the final. God, yes. Right, that's it. Thank you all for watching. I managed to get it over an hour and a half. Really appreciate your comments. Really appreciate the chat. Really appreciate you all getting involved. I'll be back. You know, there aren't going to be any games to talk about, but I'll be back this week with a few special shows. Just come up with a few more comments, so I'll do those to give you another few minutes. Andrew, in my humble opinion, I would swap keepers for Leverkusen. Definitely feel more confident with Areola over Fabianski. I would too, but you know Moyes won't do that. Early doors, as always, came in late. Great. Thank you very much, mate. Bill, thank you for watching, mate. Much appreciated. Robin, is there any way JWP gets his place back now? Mickey is in the side. I'm not too sure. But congrats. Yeah, I hope you all had a great Paddy's Day yesterday. You know, as if you Irish need any more reasons to drink more beer and whatever else, Guinness and all that. But I hope you had a good time, John, mate. Much appreciated. Thank you all for watching. Do have a great week. Do watch out for the shows. Subscribe, people. Hit the bell notification and the like button. The bell notification will let you know when I next do a show. I'll do a couple of specials. I'm going to talk a bit more about this potential buying out of shares. Someone mentioned about something else that is completely gone, but I'll have a look through the chat later on. Oh, about Sunak coming up with some changes. I'll look at that as well. I'll look that up and do a show about that too. Thank you all. John, thank you for that comment at the end there, mate. Much appreciated. Have a wonderful week. Have a few weeks off from a couple of weeks off from West Ham now, and we'll see you all soon.